Hi there and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm covering the topic of rational inequalities with linear factors. It's really covered in Art Math, sometimes in Math. It's covered in Form 4 and Form 5, right? Now, some of you may say, Miss, I don't understand what you're talking about. It simply means I'm doing fractions, like things that look like this, stuff greater than or equal to 0, and so on. These are the type of questions I'm going to do. So please stay tuned where I'm going to cover a few questions and their detailed solutions. Okay everyone, so this is my number 1. It says here solve x divided by x plus 1 is greater than 0, right? Now for us to solve this, we need to follow these steps here. So my first step says solve each linear factor separately. Now if you're confused by what that means, it simply means this equation here, well, it's not really an equation, an inequality is divided up into factors. So we have this one is 1 and this one is 1. So I only have 2 in this particular sum. However, in some others, I could have many more. So the first one, x, that the numerator, that simply means x is equal to 0. So that is solved in the first piece. The second one, x plus 1 is equal to 0. When if I solve it, this linear factor, I'll get x is equal to minus 1. So I now have x is 0 and x is minus 1. So that, everyone, takes care of my first step. From these values, find all the various sections the answers could fall in. So if I had x is equal to 0 and x is minus 1, my smaller value is minus 1. So I could draw a little kind of makeshift number line, put 1 here, minus 1 here, 0 here, minus 1 here, 1 here, 2, etc. Right? I don't need to really fill out a whole lot. But if x is 0, that means it will be here. If x is minus 1, that means it will be here. So my values from this number line shows me that I can either have x is less than minus 1, x is equal to minus 1, x is between minus 1 or 0, x is equal to 0, or x is greater than 0. So I simply have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections, right? So here now, I need to draw up a table and make each column each of these sections from number 2. So let me do that now. So I'm going to put here my first one, I'm going to put x is less than minus 1, x is equal to minus 1, x is between minus 1 and 0, x is equal to 0, and then lastly x is greater than 0. So those are my 5 different sections to complete this step here. Now I'm going to break up the linear factors and place them on each row heading. So the rows are here, 1, 2, 3. So the linear factors that I had were just x and x plus 1. So this one is going to be x, this one is going to be x plus 1. So that is finished, right? So now for the column where the factor will be 0, place a 0 there. So now I'm going to fill in this table. You might say, Miss, I don't know what you're talking about. For the column where the factor will be 0, place a 0 there. So if I have this here, x, it's only when x is 0 I will have a 0 here, right? Similarly, if I had x plus 1 here, it's only when x is minus 1, this column here, I'll have a 0 here, right? So that's simply what it means. So that takes care of this step here. And they say here, once the coefficient of the linear factor is positive, then all the columns on the left of the 0 column would be negative, and all the columns on the right would be positive. Now, I know some of you might find this a bit wordy and long, but honestly, this is a very simple step to follow. What they're saying here is that once the coefficient here of this x here is positive, now the coefficient here is 1, and 1 is a positive value, so all my values on the left of this 0, that's this column, and this column, will then have negative signs. Negative, negative, negative. And everything on the right of it will have a positive. So I only have one column on the right of it, so I'll just place one positive sign there. Similarly, for this one, I'll repeat this step here. I look at the coefficient here, it's a positive x. Again, positive 1. So I will put a negative here and positive, positive, positive. So that takes care of this line and this line. Now on to point 8, step 8 I should say. Whatever the sum, multiply the negative values, zeros and positives to get the final sign in the last row. It doesn't matter what your sum is, if it's multiply or divide or whatever, you need to apply your sum from here into here. So I'm going to write in my sum here, it's going to be x divided by x plus 1. So that means if my x, my numerator, was a negative, and I had a negative for the bottom, for the denominator here, that means it would be a negative over a negative, my answer would be a positive. If, again, I had a negative at the top and a 0 at the bottom, it would be a negative divided by 0, and my answer will be infinity. If I had a negative divided by positive, my answer would be a negative. 0 divided by positive, my answer would be a 0. Positive divided by positive, my answer will be a positive. So these, everybody, will now direct me to my answer, these values here. So now they say, get the answer from the last row which corresponds with the inequality given in the actual sum. Well, sorry, question. So what was my question in the first place? It was this. It was x over x plus 1 is greater than 0. So I want where it's greater than 0. So that means I want positive values. So positive, this is telling me where my answer is, and this is giving me my answer. Not here, not here, not here, but here. So then, everyone, I can say the answer is x such that x is less than minus 1 or x is greater than 0. That, everyone, is the answer to my first question. I hope that you understand. So now we're on to our second sum, right? So if you're given this to solve, the first thing I analyze is there a 0 here? And there's no 0 here. So what I'll do, I'll send this across here, and I will begin to simplify. So this is how my solution will go. 5x minus 2 over x minus 3, less than or equal to 2, will now become 5x minus 2, x minus 3, minus 2 is less than or equal to 0, and I'll find the LCM here. LCM is x minus 3, x minus 3 to x minus 3 is 1, 5x minus 2 by 1 will give me back that, and then 1 into x minus 3 is x minus 3, minus 2 by that will give me this. So now simplifying here, I get this. And then simplifying again, I get 3x plus 4 over x minus 3 is less than or equal to 0. So now, from here now, then I could start to do my solving with these steps here. So let me continue. So now, going back to my list, it says to solve each linear factor separately. So my linear factors are these. This is my first one, and this is my second one. Solving here, I will get 3x plus 4 is equal to 0, and x minus 3 is equal to 0. So this works out nicely to just be 3. This one works out to be minus 4 on 3, so which is minus 1 and a third. So again, if I did a little number line, I'll get minus 1 here. You don't have to do this each time. I'm just doing it because I'm teaching you all. So negative minus 1 and a third will be there. So go like this. 3 will be here. So, right? And this just means less than minus 1 and a third, equal to minus 1 and a third, between minus 1 and a third and 3, equal to 3, and greater than 3. So now I move on to my table. So I've completed this step, and I'm now going to draw up the table and put all my columns. So now this column here will have x is less than minus 1 and a third, x is equal to minus 1 and a third, x is between minus 1 and a third, and 0, that'll be 3, x is equal to 3, and x is greater than 3. So this completes here. And then break up the linear factors to place them in each row. This piece here now will come here. 3x plus 4, x minus 3. So that now completes step 4. Now step 5, for each column where the factor will be 0, place a 0 there. So I think we know what to do here. Where x is equal to minus 1 and a third, I'll put the 0 here. Where x is equal to 3, I'll put the 0 here. Now my factors in front here, the coefficients of this factor, is positive. So I put a negative, positive, positive, positive. This one, it's a positive again. I put negative, 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 and then positive because of these two rules here, right? So we've done this and we've done this as well. Now they said whatever your sum is, apply the negatives and so on. Right, so what is my sum? My sum is 3x plus 4 over x minus 3 is less than or equal to 0, right? So now I'm dividing these answers here. So a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 0 divided by a negative is a 0. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. Positive divided by 0 is infinity. Positive divided by positive is positive. So now, which one will give me less than or equal to 0? That's here, right? Less than or equal to 0 means negative. That's here. That's this piece here. And also 0. So I want this one as well. So I'll simply say x such that x is equal to minus 1 1/3, or x is between, x is between 3 and 1 1/3 minus here. Or I could say, I could write it in 1. X is such that x is between and equal to minus 1 1/3 here and 3 here without the equal sign on this side. So that, everyone, takes me to the end of my second sum. So now this is our third and final sum. So again, I have a 0 here, so it's great. We could just jump straight into our question. Solve each linear factor. So I'll get 7 minus x is equal to 0. So I get x is equal to 7. X plus 4 is equal to 0. X is minus 4. 2 minus x is equal to 0. So x is 2. So these are my values, that my linear factors that have been solved. From this, I could do my number line. I don't really need to do one. I will just do up the table straight, right? So this is what I write. So to move on to my table now, I would have these categories. X is less than minus 4, x is equal to minus 4, x is between minus 1, 2, x is equal to 2, between 2 and 7, equal to 7, and greater than 7. So that takes care of my table, right? I'm going to break up my linear factors and place them in each row heading. So my linear factors are these 3 values here. So I'm going to have this row heading here. X plus 4 is my next one, and 2 minus x is my other one, right? Now I want to fill out the table, right? So what we're saying in our first line, the coefficient of x is minus, right? So we know that we have to put a 0 here where x is 7, but since it's a minus, I move on to 0.7 where it says if it's a negative, the value to the left will be positive and the value to the right of the 0 would be negative. So I'll put positive, 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 positive here, and negative here. Now this one where x is 4, I'll put the 0 here. This is a regular positive one, so I put negative here, plus, 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 because that follows 0.6, right? And then the last line now, again it's a negative, so I put a 0 here, and because it's a negative, I put plus, plus, plus on the left hand side, and negative, negative, negative on the right hand side. So now I've filled out all my rules for the factors. Now I need to apply the sum. So what is my sum? And when I say sum, I don't mean summation. I mean this sum here. What question I was given. And in my question, they said, I'm taking 7 minus x and dividing it by these two factors. So I'm going to write that here. And I'm going to simply apply all these signs and get one answer. In this case, I have a positive in my numerator, and then I have a negative and a positive for my denominator, which ends up being positive over negative, which ends up being a negative. This one here will be positive and 0 by plus, and that'll be plus over 0, which will be infinity. Plus over plus plus, which will be plus. Plus over plus 0, which will be plus over 0, infinity. Plus over plus negative, which will be plus over negative, which will be negative. And then 0 over plus negative, which would be 0, negative over negative plus, which would be negative over negative, which would be plus. So I know it looks a little confusing, but we're looking at the answers in the bottom line. So we are looking at the values here in this green strip here, and we want to see which of them fall into this category where it's less than or equal to 0. So again, less than or equal to 0 means negative, negative, and 0. So then this, this, and this. And I only circle these because these have fallen into the category I want, and these here apply to these intervals that I need. So now to do up my answer is x such that x is less than minus 4, or x is between 2 and 7 and inclusive of 7. So this, everyone, is my final answer. So I know that these steps are very long, but honestly I find these questions to be very fun. So I hope that you understand, and I hope that you follow my steps, and feel free to check out my other videos and to do more sums to practice. All the best with your maths and art maths, guys. Take care.